JD. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe. Please hit like. What I've got here today, I've got a basket full of watch. So this basket seems like crunchy right now. Anyway, squished down nicely. I make sure when I'm putting the parts into the basket that I make sure the lid on the basket is actually, if you look at the lid, there's perforations on one side of the rim and on the other side it's clean, so I allow the clean part of that rim to go down, so there's a very good seal on that. And I'm just going to pull these out because I've got parts that I need to place on my mat here. So let me just remove this here and remove this here. And I did something I normally don't do when I'm doing watch repair and cleaning movements, is I took the upper plate and the lower plate and kind of very loosely screwed them together so to reduce the amount of rattling or movement on the plates, right? So I do need to get a glove on because I'm being a good boy here. I bought a bunch of finger cots and now I can't friggin' find them. I don't know where they are. I'm assuming they're somewhere, but I can't remember where I put them all. So I'm sure they're a bit tight anyway, so I'm just going to go for the huge big glove because these fit nicely and they don't cause any problem with respect to, you know, cutting off circulation to my fingertips, which is sometimes a problem. I'm going to turn the main light on here so I can see what the heck I'm doing today. So so that's that. I'm going to unscrew. Oh, I'm going to have to put this together at some point in time because I got this from eBay and it's a bunch of jeweling chucks. It's a whole lot of jeweling chucks actually, but they all fell out and they're in no particular order. So I've got to start the jeweling chucks out because I do jeweling chucks. Jeweling chucks are my friend. So this basket can go back into the holder. I've got two of these holders, by the way, and two sets of baskets, which is nice to have. It was when I bought my Pearl watchmaking machine. Let me go down here. Oh yeah, there we go. So when I bought my Pearl watchmaking machine, it came with a couple of sets of baskets and some extra jars, which is really good. And that Pearl machine is still working really well, by the way. The only thing I don't like about it is the voltage regulator, or is it a current regulator? Anyway, it's a regulator that regulates the, this is the ARY loop, folks, ARY loop. Get one of these or get out of watchmaking. So anyway, it regulates the speed of the motor. So the motor is an AC motor, I believe, which would imply that it's a 120 volts and there's a current drop across that regulator. Maybe there isn't, but I think there is. I think that's what it does. So it's like the old I think called rheostats. So it's an old rheostats, but I'm still not sure what this rheostat is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a 240 volt, and it doesn't give me the amount of fidelity that I need. Like the window of movement on that is very tight, so I have to play with it every time I put a watch in there. I got to sort of play with that and make sure that I don't screw that up. So right now I'm removing these screws, and the screws are different. The heads are different on these things. If you look way in the corner, right over where I am, this head's shorter than this head here. So there is a difference. The other thing that's kind of weird about this movement is that this plate here only has 2 screws in it, which is kind of odd. I thought there'd be 3, but it's a beautiful, beautiful movement. Let me grab this for a second and just very carefully show you this thing. So there it is there. That is a gorgeous movement. That's an 845. So it's a Waltham 845, or American Waltham Watch Company is what it is. 21 joule adjusted. I don't know whether this particular movement came into play before or after the railroad standard came into play. We just move everything out of the way here. So now I've got these little baby containers here. So I don't know whether that particular movement came in before or after. I'm thinking after because it seems to be, it's got a, it's regulate or adjusted to positions. I don't think it says 5. What is it? 21 joule adjusted is what it says. So I'm just going to dump these because it's probably the safest way of getting stuff out is to dump it. Once I've dumped it, as you can see in the bottom here, I make sure I match stuff up. So this here would go with the ratchet wheel here, or the crown wheel. I gotta get my book out again. Oh my God, I continue to not tell myself what parts are as I do watch repair. So I gotta just talking to you guys, and you don't tell me what the parts are when I'm talking to you. So I blame you as the audience out there. So thanks for the comments, by the way. Again, I enjoy the comments that you send me. And again, if you have any questions, I've got a person from the local watch society who was referencing or gave me a kudo to another guy who wants me to fix his Hamilton watch. So I got to get back to this guy. And also the local clock dudes want me to rebuild the platform balance for a couple of very vintagey platform balances that are on carriage. Imagine it's carriage clocks, even though he said platform balance. Here's the screws that are used to hold the movement in place. I'm going to put those way up here. And anyway, this is like, I'm going to drop in and send you a couple, and let's see what you can do with them. And I'm like, yeah. That's always fun. It's funny. This here goes right on top of the crown wheel right here, unless that's the ratchet wheel. There's the minute wheel anyway. I know what that one is. And this is the screw that goes on top of here. I'll just put that aside. And there is the infamous cannon pinion. So I do have my cannon pinion back, which is great. And the tricky part of, so anyway, if I take on this job, it'll have to be in a month or so. I want to get these watches out of my oot of the lab. That's Canadian for out. I want to get these watches out. So I see how I dumped the fourth wheel, because I don't want to put any pressure on the pivot, because that pivot in the fourth wheel holds the seconds hand. So I've made one of these before. I've repivoted it, and it's all kind of work. It's all kinds of work that I'm not interested in doing at this very moment. So there's the center wheel, all spanky clean now. Again, needs to come out of the cage. So let's see if I can just move this sideways a bit and just pull this up. There we go. That's the center wheel. I'll put that up there. And I've got we just dumped that one. That's the intermediate wheel right there. And I don't know whether I took a picture of the movement, because it was very difficult because of this as being a full plate movement. Why do people keep sending me full plate movements? These are very hard to work on. Putting them together and then testing them and then taking them apart again and testing and putting them together. Everyone seems to be sending me full plate movements because they know that they're hard to work on. So this is the escapement right here, and I'm going to grab that very carefully and put that over here with the rest of the stuff. That's German for stuff. And put that in there. So I've got about a boot. I got about half an hour's worth of work through this lunch period, and then I have to end it quickly because I do work. So I only put in for 30 hours this week, though, to give me some time to fix some watches. So I got to restack the baskets and put my finger down like this to catch the baskets as they go down, and then put the top one in. I can basically drop that like that, and then put this in like this, and all ready. And again, when you're putting the basket put this in with the side down that's not, whatever it's called, rippled or knurled or something, right? See how that's a little knurled or rippled? That's not going to fit as tight on the rim of that upper basket as the other ones. And then I have a cardboard, basically it's a wireless charger that I bought a while back, and I don't know where the hell that is for my phone. So, and I put the baskets in with the wireless charger. The problem is, as you get more crap, electronics and everything else, you tend to collect it and then put it somewhere where you'll never forget where it is. And then you forget where it is. So, there you go. Now, before I build this watch up, I need some oil for sure. Got to do a little bit of cleaning and oiling work here, which means I got to get down and dirty and remove this particular screw. This is holding down the cap jewel. I grab these screwdrivers or put them right out of the way. I think my watch is bugging me, so I've got an Apple Watch on right now. Watch check. Got an Apple Ultra titanium watch. It's a scuba diving watch. It's an everything watch. It's huge. It's you can hit that with a hammer and it survives, and my son bought that for me. So thank you very much, son. And I also have a Casio G-Shock here, and this is a high-end Japanese model. It's a solar, plus it communicates with Dayton, Ohio time tower, and basically allowing that watch to be accurate, 100% accurate, 100% of the time. So it's a pretty cool watch. Now, I got a lot of other watches that I'm not wearing right now, and I should probably be wearing those other watches, because that's probably foolish of me not to be wearing these other watches. Anyway, I'm going to take this out and then I'm going to oil underneath, clean and oil underneath, and I'm not sure whether this thing is going to come out from the top or whether I got to push it out from the bottom. But if I have to push it out from the bottom, I'm not going to bother videotaping all that crap, because you guys will be mad at me if I do. So sometimes you can just remove these right from the top. I need to get a smaller screwdriver though. Smaller screwdriver, and you cantilever it. And then you go straight up like that. Look at that thing of beauty. It's coming out nicely. Cantilever twice, cantilever once, cantilever twice. Look at that. Hold on. Come on out. Come on out for me. Don't cause me problems. Don't give me no guff. Don't give me no guff. I was asking my wife the other day what guff was, Because very often people will say, hey. So they say first, hey, don't give me no guff. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is guff? So now I can take this out now because I got it raised up. And what I don't want to do is fling it, right? But I do want to remove it. And I got it loose. It just settled back down again. So I think I need to play with this a bit more. I need leverage. It's like I have to put a screwdriver down like that, and then put this one here, and then use this as a lever. Will that work? Or I just have to tap into it with Rodico and see what happens. Nope, I'll figure that out and get back. Here, did it, as you can see. Just basically putting the screwdriver on both sides, levering it up, placing it back down, levering it up, and then eventually it wedges it and comes out. So it's the easiest way to do it. I could turn it upside down on a block as well and just punch it out, but I didn't really want to do that. So, and this is in great shape. It looks really good on the inside. The jewel looks perfect, and the jewel also looks super clean. So maybe my cleaning machine got right in there, but it looks super clean. You can tell by the reflection on the jewel. So I use that reflection when I look at the jewel, and this is a cap jewel here, and to see whether there's any gum left on the cap jewel. And this one also looks super clean. And what I also do is I make sure that I have a tiny stick of pegwood, like this. This is pegwood. Then I'm able to go and turn that cap jewel around, because that's where the oil will reside. And it's turned around right now, and I can just rub the center of that with like that, and I look at it again, and absolutely clean. So that's a good way of doing it. It's very picky, but I'm a picky guy, so I'm a picky guy. And then I want to rotate this thing in a way that I just want to put it back on the movement so it doesn't collect any dirt or dust. And I just want to make sure this goes in, and I think it's going to go in like that, right? So I want to rotate it so that it sits properly when it goes back in, and I don't have any problems. So the trick here then is to turn it this way, like so. Get a little bit of oil. I got my oilers here. Let me just show you the oilers because I don't want to do two cameras right now. But there's the oilers. So the Bergeron oiler set. See, it's not the hockey team. It is not. I repeat, it is not the hockey team. The Oilers. My humor is really bad. And I want to put just a little bit of oil on that, right on the top, like so. And then that oil, when I basically oiled the cap jewel, right? And then I take that cap jewel, see if I can do this without screwing it up. Grab the cap jewel, turn that around with my tweezers, and then align the movement so the cap jewel is lined up properly. And what I want to do is just drop that down. If I can successfully drop that into place, then my work here is done. It looks like it's turned just a bit, so I want to kind of scooch it over. Come on, get in there. So now that I have it lined up like this, I can use the base of the pegwood because it won't touch the cap on the cap jewel, and just push it down like that. So that's pushed down into place. So you just use your screwdrivers and do that. And now I just have to put the two screws back. Looking at my time, I've got another 20 minutes or so, and I've aligned these screws up so they're kind of lined up in place. Of course, the other thing too is that when you're using a lens like an airy loop or something like that, you're not seeing in 3D, so it's a little bit tougher as you put these screws back in. And I drop the loop down, as you just heard, when I'm ready to actually do the work. So I put that in. And then just turn that. You got to make sure you don't strip the movement when you're putting the screws in. You put them in and they're just put in nice and snug. You don't have to really ream down on them. Although when I've done watch repair, I've often run into watches where the watchmaker just decided to use it Herculean strength. They called up Hercules Unchained, which was, I think, the movie that inspired Arnold Schwarzenegger to become a bodybuilder. It wasn't Steve Reeves, it was another dude. Maybe it was Steve Reeves, I don't know. He liked Steve Reeves too. So, Steve Reeves Unchained. Anyway, so that inspired Arnold. I'm always squirreling in these videos, so you have to put up with it. But the thing is, I know that I'm doing it. So that's the difference between a squirreler and a non-squirreler. So that's in there nicely now. This has all been assembled. It's ready to rock and roll. So I'm just making sure, yeah, this goes into, when I put this in, I want to make sure I don't squish this here. And if you look at this movement, it's pretty fancy. So there's a spring right there that loops around, and that one there made me really nervous about actually disassembling this, because I know that you could break that spring, and if you did that, you'd have to buy another one of these movements. There's no way you're going to find a spring like that. So when I put it into the holder here, I kind of want everything to be out of the way. so I don't have to worry too much about the spring being squished or anything like that. So I want to make sure the jaws of this holder are kind of out of the way, right? And then the oil that I've got to put on here, it doesn't have to be a very thick grease, but this watch is this movement here. I just want to put a bit of oil down there, and the oil passes itself along, right? And then where the stem or winding mechanism touches the plate, I want to oil that too, so when it turns it's going to be hitting this little wall of oil here, which will help it turning. But the more oil you put in, the more oil the more dust the watch can collect. And what I find very interesting is that a watch that's completely sealed, and when you clean it, somehow the dust gets in here. Now, what I heard someone say just recently was that it is the static electricity that causes the dust to get inside of the watch. So I never knew that before. I never thought of that. But if you think of the balance turning, you know that there's static electricity being created by that balance turning. So that's something that you should understand, right? So I'm also going to put a little bit of oil right here, and that's for when the stem comes through. Right there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of oil where the barrel is. It's funny, I did a 7750 Valjour watch there for a friend of mine. I think I've told you about this before. And it has like, I don't know how many parts, 150 parts, 175 parts, like way too many parts. And after finishing that watch, let me just see here, I did a little bit too much oil. If you're going to draw oil from your oiler, by the way, if you pull it out fast, it leaves a ball of oil. If you pull it out slow, it doesn't. There you go. Now I can oil these from the other side once the watch is in there, so I want to do that. I've already oiled this here. And the other very weird thing about this watch is that the banking pins are on the upper plate. So that's something that I'm not used to. So I'll likely take a break and then put the rest of this together at a later time. But the banking pins are on the upper plate. So if I use my gloves here and pick this up and show you, there's the watch, there's the back end of that movement, as you can see. And the pallet fork, let me just get a stick I can point with. The pallet fork goes right in there, like that. And so that means the escapement is right, the pallet fork is in here, the escapement is right here on this watch. And there's banking pins. If you look at this closely, see the banking pins? They're right here, which is like, that's so unusual. This is a full plate watch, but it's taking the conventional pallet fork that you see now in watches, right? And not a pallet fork that's from earlier, where there was like the pallet fork was like a straight bar. If you looked at a pallet fork, I just see a hair here, and I'm not sure why there's a hair here. I have to get rid of the hair. It's not from me because I don't have any hair. I need to pick this hair off and see where the heck it resides. Where the hell does this thing come from? There we go. Gone. One hair gone. So I've got to rebuild this watch now with all of the gears and everything. I don't want to start it now because I only have 15 minutes. So I'm going to look at this. I think I'll probably end up placing the pallet fork in place, and maybe even put the escapement in place, not sure, before I put it down on the watch. But I'm not absolutely sure, so I'm going to figure that one out after. Again, there's no assembly instructions. This is a Waltham 845, beautiful, beautiful watch. So I'll be back. So the main problem with this watch was the balance staff. So it needed a new balance staff. The one it had was broken. So that was a big issue and would not work with a broken balance staff. So that was completely replaced, and I did put a shim in there for this because I didn't want to adjust the balance staff too much for this very nice old vintage watch. So I'm going to see if I have a picture of the gears though, because I think that this could be tricky putting this back together unless I do that. Although I think a lot of these gears can be put in. Yeah, I just got to get the order right here, that's all. It's a full plate movement, which can be a real pain. So there's a picture of the gears. I'm just going to use that as a reference as I place the gears back in. So looking at this movement here and looking at my reference here, the first gear, I think these two gears here, or the pallet fork and the escapement, I'm going to be attaching to the upper plate. So the lowest gear in this whole thing, the jobby doohickey, is the fourth wheel, which needs to go in very carefully. See if I can do this. It's not here, it's not here, it's here. And that's completely aligned with the there we go. Yeah, that's like that. And then the center wheel goes in. And I did notice that the escapement and the pallet fork go on top of everything, which would suggest that when they put this watch back together, or when they assembled this watch, they assembled it in the same way. So I'm going to grab this pivot here and then very carefully put that in. I oiled that already, as you saw earlier. I put that in there like that, and the pinion will mesh really well here. It goes. I wish this would just sit down, right? It'd be nice if it just sat down. And then this gear goes in next, and that goes straight down like that. And I probably can't hold the tweezers this way to put that gear in. So I got to hold the pivot on the top. Very carefully again, and then just drop that gear straight down. There we go. And it just sort of sits there lightly now. Now the question is, I said this is a full plate, but it's actually two plates. Now, can I put the first plate down to secure some of these gears in place? That's the question I have. So the first plate would be this plate here that would go right over the mainspring. There's a small half moon here, and that's where this fits in. So I would do this. I should get another glove on, but I'm being a bad boy here. So put this down like this, I think. That's going to fit over the top like that. There we go. That fits like that. Now you see how that the gear, which is this would be 1, 2, 3, the third wheel, fits right underneath the plate there. So this is the plate that takes 3 screws, not 2, 3. So I can put those in place here, and I'll screw those down, but not tightly. Because I want to, when I flip this around, when I put the other plate on, I want to make sure that this plate here doesn't fly out, because that would not be a good thing. So I'll put that down. Again, it's probably a good idea for me to get my famous stick I keep mentioning in every video, which is the very resistant watch tool, the polymide plastic, anyway, the 720 polymide, very resistant watch tool. Resistant to what is the question, or resistant to who or whom? So I want to just put a little bit of pressure on this plate like this, so when I put these screws in, the plate doesn't jump on me. right? I think I've got most things in there, so I'm good. So, and before I tighten the screws on the plate, I check and make sure there's no gaps, which would imply that there's a piece just hanging there, and which would cause me issues. So this is adjusted to 5 positions. I'm right where my screwdriver is right now. That's what it's saying, adjusted to 5 position. That's pretty impressive. So it's likely a railroad grade watch. It isn't a full plate, it's 2 plates. But it's behaving like a full plate because of the way this plate is put on. It's causing me to attach the pallet fork and the escapement to the plate before the low end of the plate, before I lay it down, right? So all this could be very tricky, right? This is it's what I'm saying. So this here, I need to basically put the pallet fork in here and then through the banking pins and the escapement right here, I think. Right here, right? So that's connecting those 2 things, right? If that's right, is that right? I think that's right. And the pallet fork and escapement, let me grab this pallet fork here. So the pallet fork would go in. I'm just being so ever so careful with this. Don't want to damage anything on this watch. I never want to damage anything on any watch, but the pallet fork would go in like that. So I'm just going to move this out of the way a bit so you can see what's going on, and move this over just a tad so you can get a little closer look at this. I got to get in a bit closer, and so that would go in like this, and it's really a short shaft to the pallet fork. So that's the pallet fork, and now the escapement goes in with the pinion downward. So this is also super touchy here. So this is the escapement here, and this is going to go in. Let me see. Let me have a look at my picture again, because the pinion would be, if it's showing, yeah, the pinion is facing upward in this case because it's upside down. I just have to make sure I'm not doing something stupid here. So the pinion is actually facing this way with the pallet fork, and this goes in just like this. I'm getting close here with my goggles on here. There, it goes in just like that. So what I'd like to do is bridge this with some Rodico, and I can see it's aligning no problem. Yeah, because that has to then go down, and then the pivot's got to go into the bottom plate. So that's when this is lowered down, it goes into the bottom plate. So what I need to do is get myself a slice of Rodico, and I'm going to take my glove off for this, because it's, I think, the only way I can think of putting this thing in and keeping these parts in place. Because after I do this, I got to then pick the Rodico out of where they are in the watch. So I just have one piece of Rodico that would be there, maybe even a smaller piece than that. It doesn't take much to hold the part in place. I just need to grab it like this, and then I would put that Rodico kind of on the plate itself and not on the part. So I want to just push it down on the plate and then let the Rodico touch the part. I don't need it to put any pressure on the part. Kind of like this, and I'm just trying to spread the Rodico onto the plate so it just stays. It's not wanting to stay, but I think it will in a second. So that's one piece of Rodico stuck on there. And if I look down on that, everything is good. And the pallet fork is in there, and it's in the right position. Now this is the hard one here, is that I could take this and put this on the lower plate and just lower all that out down. But I'm not sure if the pivot is so small on the escapement here that I don't think it'll stay in place. So if I take another piece of Rodico here, and I'm able to put that on the plate as well, stretch it out a bit like this, and then put that on the plate, would that be enough to hold everything down? That is the question. That is the question is. That's what a professor of mine used to say when I was in university. He'd say, what is the question is? What I don't want to do is put undue pressure on this part, even from the Rodico, because there's a chance that the pivot might break or something like that. So the pivot, it just moved a bit out of place. I got to move it back. There. No, that's not holding it in place. I need to figure this one out better. That's why this is a very painful thing to put back together, I'm telling you. Let me think. Do I bridge it, or do I just lay it on top, or what? Let me think here. Because everything could just fall out of place when I put it down. If I put the escapement down first, well, I don't think the escapement will actually stay in place because it's too tall to sit there with the pivot unless it's leaning against the wheel, right? So I'd rather have a piece of Rodico holding it in place. So if I just try this again here. Rodico doesn't seem to want to cooperate. I'm just going to pull another piece off here. So I can probably maybe use a bigger piece. I'm not too concerned because I'm going to be pulling it back after. And I don't think there's anything here that would interfere with the plate. So if I just put that down. I do this Rodico trick for full plate watches as well, right? So I just have to make sure I don't put any undue pressure, like I said, on the watch itself. So now, if I could squish that Rodico on with my fingers and then just bend it down, can I do that? I'm holding everything ever so lightly, right? So this is being held super light. Just trying to squish this Rodico along the edge of the plate here. Now I can put the escapement into the pivot. Like that, and just move the Rodico down. Is that possible? I don't know. Yeah, that thing jumped up again. Well, that's the other way around, I think. It's supposed to be this way, not the other way. That didn't help. think I did such a good cleaning job, the Rodico won't stick to the plate now. Alright, there we go. It's kind of in place. I don't know if this will work or not. So now I got to put this plate on. And as you can see, I got Rodico over the escapement, and I've got Rodico. Put my glove on, Rodico over the other thing. So now I got to turn this around and then place this straight down. Right, this is going to be tough. I may let's see if I can. Just to be a good boy, I'm going to wear 2 gloves. And just blowing up the gloves. I call that Bugs Bunnying the gloves when you do that, right? Because whoever has the biggest hand wins. So I got both gloves on right now, so I'm not sure if this will hold this in place or not. I don't think it's going to actually. It's moving right now, so. I'd like to just use my fingers because this is really slippery and I don't want this to move. So you can see where the Rodico is right now, and it doesn't seem to want to be sticking, so it's pissing me off. That's what it's doing. Well, I could just try it for the palette fork alone, and then just try to put, because this is not holding, that's the problem, and just put the escapement down on the movement. So that might be the only thing I can do here, and then hopefully the pivot of the pivot holds in place. I'm going to take one of my gloves off because the gloves are very, like I said, I think in a number of my videos that back in the day when they were doing watch repair, they didn't wear gloves. They did not wear gloves. So all you people that are telling me I need to put gloves on and finger cots, they didn't wear finger cots back in the day. So here now I'm just going to see if I can find a home for this. This is where the escapement is. And that would go right here. My problem is I got to get this out of the way. Like, this is going to be so tough to do. I think I may have to end this and start again later, because this needs to rock forward. Yeah, that's not going to work. I need to somehow secure this escapement like I did before, so it goes straight down, because I don't think it will. I can't put that in. I knew when I saw the fact that the escapement was in the top part, that this is not, it's not going to be easy. So I got to have it on the top of the plate there, and then lower the whole thing. So, well, I'm in a bit of a rush right now, so I don't know how am I going to do that. Let me think here. I'm going to bring this back again, because I can't put the plate partially down and then put the escapement in. That's likely not going to work. That's probably a bad plan. And I think that maybe if I have a big long piece of Rodico, like I stretch a long piece of Rodico out. I'll take my glove off again. Sorry about all the babbling. I apologize. So what I'm going to do this time is take a long piece of Rodico and just stretch the darn thing right over the top of that wheel like this. So I'm going to stick it down on one side and then stick it down on the other side like this. Put a little pressure on it. The Rodico, for some reason, is not sticking to the plate, which is odd, because usually when I've done this, it's stuck to the plate without a problem. So this time it doesn't seem to want to stick to the plate. I'm going to try this anyway. So there we go. And then this one here is the one that I have, and I might have to take a big piece of Rodico and stick that down too. Because again, the Rodico doesn't seem to want to stick to the plate here for some reason. So I may have to build a bridge there as well. Alright, there we go. So now I'm going to use this. I'm not putting my gloves on, so forget it. So they're both kind of stuck there. Let me just show you what that looks like. Looks like that. And so when I put this on, I'm putting it on, see if it falls out here for me, like this, and then straight down. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here, so stand by to stand by. Alright, so the plate is down, and now I've got to tweak it, which means I still don't know whether the pallet fork is still in there and the Rodico is still in there, but I got to tweak the thing. And normally what I would do here is put some screws down first to tweak it, but I'm not sure if I have that opportunity. I'm just going to have a look at it from the side for a second. I'm going to turn my video off so I can look at it from the side. So I think there's a sequence of events here that have to happen. So I think to get this plate in, it has to go underneath the other plate. So this plate has to lift up. So I've lowered the screws so this plate can lift up like that. And then this goes under here like this. So I've got the center wheel in right now. It's a jogging of stuff right now. So I'm just looking inside, the crack to see if how screwed I am here with the other gears, because I could be totally screwed and have to start all over again. I'm going to turn this off. I just have to tweak the edges again. I actually think the trick is to put this plate in first and not this plate, because it's got to go down. This plate I think will go in quite easily once the other plate is in. So I'm going to actually remove these screws and lift this other plate out, because I think that it goes in after, over the top. Now I'll wipe this whole thing down with Rodico after so there's no fingerprints left over. But oh my God, painful. 2 words, painful. And then this plate now can lift up. I'll just get a screwdriver under the edge here maybe and give it a hand. This plate can now lift up and out of the way. This gives me access to this wheel here to push over, right? So I can now, is that in place? I think that wheel's in place. And then this wheel needs to fall down next. So this wheel is in place right now, I think. Looks like it's close to being in place. What I often do is put a couple screws in, and that allows me to play with the gears here. I heard some noise, which is always good. Yeah, that gear's in place, and now I have to tweak the other edge of the gear. I'm going to stop recording so you don't have to watch this. I think I got it. So now the trick here is put some screws in here and then look down on the pivots to make sure you've got all the pivots are in place. I think they are, so I'm going to put these 2 screws in, which will hold this plate in, and I'm really putting them in lightly, so you don't want to squish anything until, well, you don't want to squish anything period, but you got to be very careful that you don't squish the pivots as you put the plates in. So if I put this one in first like this, I'll wait till I can feel some resistance, and then move it back just 1 turn or one quarter of a turn, and then do the same with this one here. And then I got to pull the rodico out and make sure that the rodico isn't going to interfere with any of this, which it should be pretty easy to pull the rodico out. So this screw can go in now. It goes in there, and just back it off a bit. And then I can put this plate in. Be a good boy again and put my glove back on. So I'm going to put this plate back in like that. And remember, I oiled the other stuff there, so we should be pretty good here. And then this plate's got 3 screws that need to go in. 1, 2. So the rodico is pretty much the only way to do this. So as you see, the trick of actually using rodico to hold the bridges on, there's no other way of doing that. I know that for a fact. So I'm going to put these screws in, but really lightly again. And what you want to do is check the edges of the plates to make sure there's no gaps. So I want to check the edge of all the plates to make sure there's no gaps, and a gap would indicate that one of the pivots is not in. I want to check the pivots from both sides. So if the plates are flat and the gears are horizontal, then I should be good. So there we go. So that's that. Now I look inside. I'm going to look inside the crack there where we've got all the rodico. And is everything in place? That's the question. Is it still in place? And I've got my little prodding rod here, and I can have a look in there, and everything kind of looks good here. So I'm going to just basically grab this rodico. It's this piece I had here before with some tweezers. I think I like got 1 minute and I got to go. I'm getting up close here, but I got to grab the rodico with some tweezers and just pull it out, and not leave any leftover rodico in there, because that would jam up the movement. So there we go. That's that piece. Now I had another piece holding the pallet fork in. Is that piece still there, or did that come out with the other one? I can see that it actually came out with the other piece, because I can see that that was the smaller piece right there was the one holding the pallet fork in place. Now everything seems to be in order, so I'm going to leave this right where it is, and I'll be right back. I can see that there doesn't seem to be any issue there, but I'm checking the edges here to make sure there's no gaps right here where the plate is, no gaps over here, and I can see all the pivots on the top. This one has got a cap jewel on, so I'm going to look at it from the other side, but I think we're good with everything. And if you can look at that, that's what it looks like. All the gears in place. Pretty cool stuff. And I'll check that from the other side to make sure the pivots are poking out. And then we're good to go, and I'm right back. Alright, let's now have a look at the pivots on the other side to make sure we don't have an issue with pivots on the other side. I got to put my glove back on just so I can hold the watch and not get it too gummy. And glove on, glove off. I'd find those finger cuts somewhere. I wouldn't have to wear a glove, would I? So there we go. I'm just going to take this back a bit. Like so, and then let's just look at the so again, like I've said a million times, Keep your fingers away from that pivot, because that's the pivot for the fourth wheel right there. That's very dangerous, so don't need to put your fingers near that. This has not been tightened up yet. I think I will add a little tiny bit of oil to everything here. So let's get my oiler out. And just like I've said 1,000 times, the thicker oil goes for the more friction on the gears. So it's thicker starting from here inward and then thinner as you get to the end here. So I'm going to put a little oil there. And if you forget to oil, this is a seconds hand, so you can oil the base of it, but you don't. You want to Rodico it after, because you don't want it riding up, because that'll cause issues. So, and this pivot here, this is for the pallet fork right here. So I can use a thinner oil on that. Some people don't even oil the pallet fork jewel, but I'm not that some people. So I like to put oil on the pallet fork jewel. There we go. That's good right there. And and what else? And I got to put. I oiled the winding mechanisms have been oiled already, but I think I might drop a little tiny bit of oil right here. I'm going to get a different type of oil though. I'm going to get the yellow oil. Everything's got a color, which is nice, eh? So, and that's right here, and that's where this little spring touches. I just want to make sure that I've got a good contact, or good, well oiled right there. And again, I'll do that, but I'll tap it with Rodico after. And a little bit of oil too on the lever, where the lever is. And the lever pulls out like so, like that. And I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this here too, because it's, and the screw as well that moves back and forth. Like that. And that should do. I don't know if there's any friction there, but I'm going to, one more oiling point is right here for any friction from this lever, and then I'll push that in nice and easy. And I oiled this already, I believe, but I'm going to put a bit of oil on the mainspring again where it sticks through here. So I think that is it for that oiling. I have some oilers coming in the mail that are injection oilers, which I always wanted to get. So a couple of injection oilers would really help. So now I don't think I oiled. Let me get the top of this movement here, because I don't believe I put it all on, but I didn't oil it yet. So, and let's just start from the center wheel. I don't think I got to Rodico that, but that's good. And then the third wheel, which is like the intermediate wheel. And then the fourth wheel, which is lined up with the winding mechanism right here. You see it straight down, like that. And I already oiled this when I took the screws out and pulled it. And yeah, so that's good. And I think that might be it. Might be it. I didn't show you the full watch, everything torn down. You've seen that a million times. I just tried to focus on the main stuff here this time. Put my oiler back. Have a look at that. So everything seems to be in place, so I can tighten those screws up now. All seems to be in good working order and in place. So I can put this back down again. Make sure I don't squish the lever on the lever mechanism. So I'll put the lever on the side here and close the Myers movement holder down. So like that. And yeah, then I can tighten these up a bit. I might just before I tighten them, I want to see if I've got power coming to the, like they're snug in there, but they're not tightened. So I'd like to put a little tiny bit of power on the movement. And to do that, I got to assemble the rest of the movement. You idiot. So let's do that part. Put this wheel in here. And then this wheel in here. And this lines up. There's a hole in this. It lines up with the hole here. So I just have to make sure I've lined up the hole properly. Of course, it flew out of my tweezers. I use tweezers that are non-marring. So these brass tweezers are very hard to scratch stainless steel with brass. So they're good tweezers for that purpose because of that. So there we go. That's that in place. And this screw is, as you've seen before, counterclockwise, just to make everything fun. And this ensures that the is that counterclockwise? I thought it was counterclockwise. What the heck am I doing? That's not counterclockwise. I was 100% sure that that was counterclockwise. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. I think it might have been another watch I was working on. Yes or no, right? That's the question. That is the question. So I can put this down here like this and move the click spring out of the way. And there's a little knobby on the top of the click spring that lets you pull it up and back. So that goes down like that. So that's now in place. And then this is a fancy one because this has absolutely no purpose, but they include it. So there you go. It just sits on top. And then this sits on top of the of this. It just slides down in like that. And then I have to tighten that up. You guys can see all that, right? I'm not so far away that it's an annoying distance away. And again, I just have to make sure the threads are not crossed or anything, so you just have to play with the threads here until you get good contact and not have to worry about crossing the threads. Of course, I'm having fun right now doing this. There we go. That is in nice and tight now. I could put a little bit of power on the watch this way. And then check and see if the power is getting to the pallet fork. And yes, it is. Now that was just a little tiny bit of power on that. And the power is definitely getting to the pallet fork. Let me show you this. Just touch it like this. And it snaps over to the other side. So I don't want to put any there. You just nudge it and it snaps over. So that's excellent. That's a good snap on the pallet fork. So that's in place. So I want to get these. I want to make sure that these plates are down nice and tight. This is an odd plate because it only has two. There's only 2 screws on it, which is, that's different, I'd say. These are all pretty loose. There we go. So that's that. And now I want to put the cannon pinion in place now. So I can turn this around and just put it on the mat. There's no problem with that because the 4th wheel pivot that I'm worried about is on the other side. So put that down there, and then what I'd like to do though, maybe before I install this, I'll put the let me think, should I do that or not? I can put the cannon pinion in, right, first, The cannon pinion I like to fit in. I like to use a large stake from my staking set to put in the cannon pinion. That way I'm pressing down with uniform pressure. So there's the stake I'm going to use there. It's just a flat stake, and I can push straight down. I don't think I need, I don't normally hammer anything when I do this, but I do want to make sure my seconds or my minute wheel is in there though, I think. Because it may fall out again, but I don't have to concern myself about that. This thing tends to jump in and out when it wants to. Gotta take it out and then put it back in again. Little thanks for the gentleman who wrote me. He said that he's got hip issues too, and he knows how hard it is to do watch repair work when your hip is hurting. And mine hurts a lot most of the time. So I'm just checking the leaves to make sure they're not misaligned too much. So now I can take this and then put it over top here and push down, and that should just push the cannon pinion in place. Let me see if that needs to move just a slight bit. And I think it's the maybe this will help me here. I don't think I've ever done this before, where you actually turn the oh, I know what I need to do. I need to pull out the lever here. And now that should move this just slightly. There we go. So that moved the minute wheel a bit, so now I can push this down all the way. There we go. It should be in place. And then what you do is you check right underneath the cannon pinion to make sure there isn't a big gap there. And then you're good to go. Good to go. Now, I want to make sure that this thing runs. So I'm going to basically put the balance back on and see if this thing is going to run for me. See, as I predicted, when I turned this upside down, the wheel fell out. This thing always falls out. It'll fall out, so just let it fall out. And I have the hour wheel here. I don't have to put that on yet. But I would like to see if this watch is going to run. Now, before I had I actually had a small piece of paper in there. Someone told me that once the watch is clean, you may not need the piece of paper, and I was like, yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe it. So there. Now, something I think I still have to do, and I forgot to do this, was put the actual cap jewels back on the balance cock. That's where I said, I wonder what these two screws are. Well, they're for the cap jewels. They're for the cap jewel for the balance cock. So I took this thing off, and now I got to put the jewels back on. So I can just very carefully do that. It's a little tricky with the balance like this, but I think it's doable without a problem. Just don't drop the screwdriver on everything. When I'm doing this here, I'm very careful that I don't slip the screwdriver into the balance or something, right? Because that's kind of a disastrous move. You don't want to do that, so don't do that. Now for the second screw, just very carefully put that in place, and then like that. I think I need a thicker screwdriver for this though. See if this might be too thick. Oh, missed it. Thank God. Thank God. I think the trick here is to not put any weight on the screwdriver at all. Just hold it in your hands. Give it partial rotations. But don't put any weight on it. Because any weight on that screwdriver at all will cause, if you're not holding it, it'll slip. And then, pardon the pun, you're screwed. There we go. So they're both in now. So now it's time to install the balance. Now before I had a little tiny piece of paper in there. Do I still need it? I think I took it out, but do I still need it? Not sure. This might have been the piece of paper right here. So I put it aside. This little tiny piece of paper was floating or sitting right in there. And it was providing the balance a bit of give. So I'm going to put the balance back in. So I'm going to put a bit more of a wind on the watch here. Now that I've got the, I get it ready to receive the balance. So I'm going to put a bit of a wind on here. There we go. And I am going to put, I know I had to put the piece of watch paper in there, so I'm going to put that back. And I think I had it, there was a piece sort of sitting right there. So I'm not sure, do I take half of that? Do I, let me get my world's best scissors here, and I'm going to cut a little tiny piece off of that and see if that works. I think it just had to be raised like ever so slightly up, and that's the reason for that is because it's a new balance staff. That's the reason. It's not because I failed at anything. It's because it's a new balance staff and it just wants to ride up a bit. So I just put that little piece of watch paper right there, and that might just be enough, which is not too bad. So I'm gonna flip the balance around here. And I like grabbing it from the other side, so I'm going to put it on the balance tack so I can grab it properly. So there we go. Now I want to grab that, and I know it sits sort of in. So I got to approach, because the pallet fork is on this side, I have to approach the impulse jewel needs to be over here as I move that around. So let me see if I can do that without any big problem. And putting the balance back is always fun. This is not as bad as a normal balance though, because of it being entering from the top. It's like a full plate movement. So I guess I could say it is a full plate movement, but it enters from the top, and so it's not as testy. So I just want to make sure. All right, that's kind of screwed up a bit, and I got myself some ticking. That's always a good sign, folks, because it keeps on ticking, it keeps on licking. Well, I found the other piece of paper. There it is there. I'm not sure if that was a double or a single, but I'm putting that over on the side, and I'll put the balance, the screw back in, and see if there's any problems at all here. So I put a little tiny bit of weight on here, and if this thing stalls or stops, then I know that I've got to put that other piece of paper in there, because it worked perfect with the other piece of paper. And I just push this down a bit, I think. Such a fancy movement. Hang on a second, I look down below. Yep. It looks like it's not touching because of the movement, right? If you look on the sides there, if you look right there, it kind of goes, there's a lip and then it touches. So it looks like it's not touching, but it is touching. So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on, like a little bit of wind pressure on here, or a little bit of pressure on this. Okay, good. Didn't seem to lose any amplitude putting pressure on it. So now I'm going to turn this darn thing upside down and see if it runs. So there's sideways. I've tightened it up a bit. So that's sideways, no problem. Doesn't look like it's losing any amplitude. And then upside down, no issue at all. It's running perfectly. So that's running really well. So there we go. I'm not sure what the amplitude is yet of this, but so far it looks pretty good. I will put a compass on it here to see if it's got any magnetism. And you'll see the thing vibrate if it does. Hopefully it doesn't, but it will vibrate if it does. So and you see here there's the slightest bit of movement, so I likely will have to demagnetize this watch. And I'm going to have a look at the hairspring too under the compass. And I'm also going to take a slow motion video of this as it's working, to make sure that there's no issue there either with respect to what am I talking about? With respect, no issue with respect to its amplitude. So it's looking pretty good though. It's looking like it has got a pretty decent amplitude. And I might put it on the time grapher. So I got the watch on my test rig. It looks like it's got a fairly good amplitude. It's running around 200 right now, but I think it could run better. I got a bigger lift angle, so I need to take this watch out and I need to adjust that lift angle. So I've got to take the power off the watch and see which side the pallet fork sits on, and then rotate the collet the other way. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to get the watch regulated nicely. So I think this is all I'm going to do in this video today, because it's really an assembly video, not a test video, so it's going to take me some time to test it. What I am going to do is let this thing run overnight, just like this, and maybe let it die, and then I'll do the lift angle. I'll do the rest of it tomorrow when I'm nicely rested. So the watch is running, so for Mr. Bauman out there, you've got a running pocket watch now, nicely cleaned, and I just need to adjust the beat error. Did I say lift angle? I meant the beat error. So I put the proper lift angle in for the test as well. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Absolutely. It's running plus 34 seconds per day right now, but the beat error is pretty big. So I'll let this thing die out, and then I'll adjust the beat error after on this thing. So this little test unit is pretty cool, because I can leave it in the holder here, and the signal does get through here to the I think it's a piezoelectric microphone, maybe a piezo microphone. So it's pretty good. So anyway, I'm very happy. The watch is running nicely, and it's all tightened up and oiled and ready to rock and roll. So I just want to make sure that I get a good beat error on it. And I'll see you next time. So I'm JD. Thanks for watching. Should I just roll this thing over for a nice close-up? Just hang on a second. I'm going to do a live close-up for you. I still have to throw it through the demagnetizer as well, by the way, but I'll bore the heck out of you doing that. So let me just move this over, and let's get ourselves a decent close-up on this beautiful pocket watch. So get rid of my picker, American picker, and there it is. Gorgeous pocket watch. I'm going to put this on YouTube, so this is almost done. Probably have it done by the weekend. There's not much more to do. I probably could do that today, but I do want to let it run. So thanks for watching my channel, and I'll catch you next time.